Split. The city where some of the best athletes in the country and the world were born and raised. And what is so special about Split that makes people capable of breaking world records in sport and winning Olympic medals? Could be the fresh air, the healthy Mediterranean cuisine, the fact that the weather is almost always perfect, or the common belief that this city has more uphills than downhills, so working out is not optional. Whatever the secret is, Split sure has a lot to offer. I mean, just look at this, and this, and this. Since Split is small, you will have time to explore the whole city during your vacation. And if you're feeling adventurous, you can even do so on foot. And why would I say you need to be feeling adventurous to explore such a small city on foot? Well, being born and raised in Split, I'm pretty sure that it has more uphills than downhills. But look at the bright side. It is unlikely that this city will let you down. If your accommodation is further from the city center, you'll be happy to hear that almost all city buses go through the city center. Bus stops Pazar, Hajnka, and Općina. Taxis, Uber and Bolt, are also available. Let's start with the obvious: how to get to Split. Being the second biggest city in Croatia, Split is well connected to all major cities in the country, as well as many major cities in Europe. The Highway A1 connects Split to Zagreb and Dubrovnik, and in case you're not arriving by car, a bus and a plane are two other options. At Split Airport, you'll find a shuttle bus that will get you to the city center in about 30 to 40 minutes. There's also a public bus near the airport, but the travel time is a bit longer due to many stops on the way. Of course, there are also taxis, but keep in mind that they are the most expensive option. In addition, there is a ferry line that connects Split and Ancona, Italy. And now let's get to the reason why you're actually here, the attractions. First and foremost, the palace. Once upon a time, Roman Emperor Diocletian decided to build his residence in what he considered, and we later agreed upon, the most beautiful city in the world. The climate was perfect, the coast was stunning, the views of mountains were unparalleled. Fast forward almost 2,000 years, everything is pretty much the same. The most important thing to know about the palace is that if you're in the city center and you're not sure where it is, you're probably already inside it. It's huge. Here are the most important parts of Diocletian's palace. First, I must mention the gates. There are 4 of them: golden, silver, iron, and brass gate. Peristyle is pretty much the central part of the palace, and personally, my favorite. Just look at how stunning this is. Look at the carvings in the cathedral and around it. And there's a sphinx. Yes, a real one. From Egypt. The cellars are a great spot to hide from the summer heat, as it's always chilly in here. I also highly suggest visiting at nighttime because, this is just beautiful. Vestibule is where most days you can see and hear a local klapa singing. This part of the palace has great acoustics, so this is really a unique experience. I suggest you continue your walk through vestibule and basically just keep making left turns until you spot the Cathedral of St. Domnius. When you reach the cathedral, you'll notice a gate on the side. It leads to the crypt of St. Lucia, but the gate is not always open, so if you're lucky enough to get a chance to see this, I absolutely recommend you to do so. Moving on, right across Peristyle, there's a tiny street that leads to Jupiter's temple, and another sphinx. Yes, also from Egypt. The sphinxes, not the temple. Anyways, next to the temple is, ta-da! One of the tiniest streets in the world. It's called Pusti me proć, which translates to let me pass through. I'd say these are the most important attractions within the palace. But that does not mean the fun ends here. As you walk out of the palace, you'll go through the Iron Gate. Spoiler alert. They are not made of iron, and they have nothing to do with Iron Man. However, they lead to one of the most beautiful parts of Split, Piazza. Right upon entering Piazza, you'll go through a street called Ispod ure. This literally translates to under the clock, and that's because it's literally under the clock. And now that we are officially out of the palace, let's admire Piazza for a bit. Piazza is the main square in Split. I'd say it's also known as People's Square, because that's its name, but it's not. No one calls it that. Seriously, I bet if you tried to ask someone how to get to the People's Square, they'd have no idea what that is. So yeah, Piazza. Marmontova Street is the most famous street in Split. This and Riva are the two places where you go to show off your outfit. Also, there's this. This sculpture is one of Instagram's favorites. But, and that's a huge but, it is not allowed to go inside it. Yes, everyone is well aware that pictures would be way cooler if you could sit inside the sculpture. But it's a piece of art, and it should be treated that way. On top of the Marmontova Street, there is the National Theatre in Split, or as everyone calls it, HNK. As you can see, it's a perfect spot for a good picture. When it comes to place, during summer, the theatre does a very cool thing, and that is open-air theatre. The festival is called Splitsko Ljeto, but I'll tell you about it in a bit. Procurativa is a square on the lower end of Marmontova, and on the very end of Riva. This restaurant and cafe called Biomonti is one of the oldest in Split, and it kept that old Split vibe, so I definitely recommend it, at least for a cup of coffee. Zapadna or West Coast is a great place to take a walk or enjoy a refreshing drink, especially at nighttime. Part of the promenade is paved with plaques with the names of Split Olympians. And no worries, we left enough space for the upcoming ones. However, the best place for a walk in Split is Riva. As I mentioned before, this is where you go to show off your outfit and your shades. That's very important, and I'll explain later. Anyways, look at this. Palm trees, bam, sea, bam. The best coffee in the world, bam, it's got it all. Pazar is very close to Riva. It's an all things market. You see, you can find everything here, from souvenirs and clothes to fresh fruit and veggies. Personally, I recommend getting a pair of shades, not only so you could show them off on Riva, but also to practice your bargain skills. And if you have a wish and want it to come true, just ask our city wizard Gregory for it. Well, he's not exactly a wizard, and there's no guarantee that the wish will come true, but he was definitely a bishop, and locals believe that if you rub his toe and make a wish, it will come true. It's not weird unless you make it weird. Anyway, if you like this statue, there's a lot more where that came from. Gregory of Nin and many other sculptures were done by one of the most famous Croatian sculptors and ladies' man, Ivan Meštrović. That's all I'll say. It's up to you to find out more, and you can do so in the Meštrović Gallery. And last on our list of top attractions in Split is something very special. It's Fortress Gripe. This site is not so well known, but it's definitely worth visiting. It's been here since the 17th century, and it houses the Croatian Maritime Museum. When it comes to nature in Split, we need to get one thing straight. It's a beach city, not a park city. The most popular parks are the ones that occasionally host events, and those are Sustipan, Zvončac, and Strossmayer Park. Keep in mind that pretty much no one in Split knows where Strossmayer Park is, because literally everyone calls it Jardin. And finally, the best park in Split, the largest one too. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the green lungs of Split, Marian Forest Park. Speaking of Marian, it is surrounded by gorgeous beaches. From Prva Voda to Bene Beach, there is a long stretch of rocky beaches. If you decide to go here, don't forget your hammock. On the other side of Marian, beaches are a bit different. That's where you'll find beach bars, sunbeds, and lots of people, especially in the afternoon. The most popular beaches on this side of Marian are Kašiuni, Ježinac, and Obojeno. Jadran is another popular beach on the western side of Split, right next to Zvončac Park. However, keep in mind that all of these beaches are a bit further away from the city center, so you'll probably need to take a taxi or a bus to get there. But all that changes on the eastern side of Split. I'll start from the most famous beach in Split and one of the most famous beaches in Croatia, Bačvice. This is where the game of Picigin was invented. And this is where you'll find many restaurants, cafes, and nightclubs. Continue your walk from Bačvice towards the east, and you're in Ovčice. And if you keep going, you'll end up on Firule. From Firule onwards, there's Zenta, Žnjan, and Duilovo. However, Žnjan and Duilovo are currently under construction. But once they are done, they'll be better than ever, so we'll keep you updated. For now, let's go back to Firule, because it's time for my favorite chapter. Coffee with a view. And there's no better place to start than Firule. There are 2 different bars here, Tennis and Mythos. But there's one view, and just imagine the sunsets here. Well, here we are, the Old Town. This is where the most popular places to sip on coffee and enjoy the view are. I must emphasize that here in Split, people do not drink coffee. They sip on coffee. And these sorts of social events last at least 3 hours. So the first stop is obviously Riva. As you may have noticed already, it's filled with cafes. This is where you come not only to enjoy the view, but also to pretend you're in the front row of a fashion show. The same goes for Zapadna, although it's not so packed with cafes. Another place where you can get a great coffee with an even better view is located right between Riva and Zapadna, Terraca Bamba. Mostly locals come here, and the good thing is that the prices are more affordable than in most places in the center. As I mentioned before, Bajamonte is a cool place for a coffee, and here are a few more places. Pro Café, Mandrač, Cornaro, Luxor, and Terraca Videlica. So, besides sipping on coffee for 3 hours, what else is there to do in Split? Well, first of all, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, then you're in for a treat. Parts of the series were filmed in Split, so you can visit the filming locations. Climbing the top of St. Dominius Cathedral is almost always a good idea. And it's a beautiful one too. That is, unless it's like super hot outside because there's a lot of stairs. You can also climb the top of Marian Hill. And in case you don't want to need a vacation from your vacation, you can rent a bike and cycle on the northern side of Marian. And last, but not least, strolling around the Old Town. During the summer, there's all kinds of events. Gladiators are walking around the city, and if you're lucky, you might even get a chance to see the Emperor himself. I previously mentioned Splitsko Ljeto, or Split Summer. It's a festival that takes place in several locations around the city, such as Peristyle, Susipan, and Meštrović Gallery. But if that's not your cup of tea, there's the Mediterranean Film Festival Split, usually held in June. It's not only famous for film screenings, but also for throwing amazing parties at Pačvice Open Air Cinema. And, of course, there's the famous Ultra Music Festival, usually held in mid-July. It gathers party people from all over the globe. Good time is guaranteed since the lineup consists of the world's most famous DJs. But I guarantee you'll have a good time wherever you decide to go out in Split, because its nightlife is pretty great. Since it's not that big, there's not too many clubs, but you'll find everything you need for a perfect night out. Central is probably the most famous place to go out clubbing, as you can see from the line in front of it. However, it is quite expensive. Good news is that the Club 305 is basically a more affordable version of Central. It's a lot smaller, but also very popular. Both places play mainly electronic and pop music. And if you're looking for a real local vibe, with some proper Balkan hits, there's Kauri and Velvet. A club that is basically a polar opposite to these ones is Boiler. It's pretty much tourists only, and I must add that it's very expensive. However, it looks really cool. My personal favorites are Pačvice and Otium, both located on Pačvice Beach. And there's Club X, Split's first queer club. It is one of the very few places in Split that does theme nights. The music is great and prices are affordable, which is, I must add, a real surprise considering it's located in the city center. On the other hand, if you're craving a fun night out, but don't want to go clubbing, there are several bars that will fulfill all your wishes. Harac is located on Marmontova, which is perfect in case you change your mind after a couple of drinks, because it's super close to 305, Central, and Club X. Only 2 minutes walk from Harac, there's Sanctuary, Charlie's, and Shotgun Shooters. All of these bars are packed with tourists every night, and everyone is very friendly. And if you want a quiet night out, there's lots of bars where you can enjoy delicious cocktails and reasonably loud music. My perfect combo. First off, there's Fabrique, Roof 68, and Olive Tree. These are places where people like to look really fancy, so dress up. Next, we have Daltonist and Strings. Drinks is very small, but the cocktails are delicious, so make sure to get here on time or you won't catch a seat. Another place with great cocktails is Kakantun. They also do very good coffee, and if you arrive early in the morning, the center is pretty much empty, which makes the atmosphere in this setting perfect. And two of my favorites, Judita and Adriatic. Judita Palace is actually a hotel, but it has a cafe on Piazza. It is very old and I love the atmosphere. And Adriatic Social Club is a lot different. It's not in the center and it doesn't have much of a view, at all actually, but it has an amazing vibe and the music is always great. Also, the volume is somehow always perfect. You can enjoy both the music and the conversation. Speaking of enjoying the conversation, how about enjoying it over a delicious meal? Say no more. I mean, save it for dinner. Here's where to forget about summer bod. I'll start with my favorite, Villa Spisa. The food is delicious and you can watch the chefs as they prepare it. How cool is that? Next, there's Adriatic, but not the social club, the restaurant. It used to be called Grasho, and since it's very popular, that name is kind of still stuck with it. Nearby, you'll also find a restaurant called Zrno Soli, or a grain of salt, which is also really good. Tinel is a great place serving traditional food. The name translates to living room, and as you can see, the vibe is very cozy. Shulg is a very popular place, a bit more expensive, but in my opinion you will get exactly what you pay for. The service is excellent. There's a couple of places that are in the palace itself that I highly recommend, and these are Fig, Konoba Korte, and Misto, which is technically not in the palace, but the palace's wall is a part of their exterior, so I'd say it counts. And I must mention Artichok, that serves not only great food, but great cocktails as well. And if you want a proper local experience, I suggest you try cevapi at Canton Paulina. Yes, cevapi are not a traditional Croatian meal, but we love them. And this is the most popular place in Split that serves them. Also, there's no seating but this bench, but that's part of the charm. Speaking of proper local experiences, there are quite a few things that only people in Split do. First of all, you know how I mentioned shades a couple of times? I promise I'll explain it to you. So here it goes. Shades are the single most important part of the wardrobe if you ask people in Split. We always wear them. Always. It doesn't matter what the weather is like, what time of the day or night it is, what season it is. We might forget our keys, wallets or phones at home, but never our shades. Second of all, every night out must end with donuts from Mate. These are the best donuts, and if you think otherwise, I'm sorry but you're wrong. Also, every now and then, we experience that thing where we want to go out but don't want to go out. So we came up with a solution, Mateuszka. It's like a public living room. Next up, a few things that we will spend money on just because we want to keep them in the city. Shoe ties. Yes, shoe ties, because this gentleman has been here for so long that his business basically became an intangible heritage of the city. Same goes for this lovely lady that will measure your height and weight for a small fee. And it might seem weird that we will pay for this, but come on, how many cities have something like this? They are a part of our tradition. Speaking of tradition, Tradicija is an old pastry shop in Split. I wish you could smell this, but I guess you'll just have to come here. No pastry shop smells as good as Tradicija. Last but not least, there is a belief that wherever you are in Split, but like literally wherever, if you look around you, you'll spot at least one Hajduk graffiti. That's our local football club, and the fans love it so much that, yes, we are surrounded by visualization of this love. But I guess you can check it yourself and see if it's true. And with this, I'll conclude our guide of Split. I hope you enjoyed exploring it with us, and who knows, maybe even started planning your trip. If you have any questions or anything to add, feel free to write to us in the comments. Until next time!